What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you with another one. And this one is another episode, another weekend. WandaVision live stream. Make sure you thumbs up that video so we can get as many people as we can in this chat. We are live on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. So wherever you're watching us from, thank you very much. Before we get into it and I introduce this panel, let's set this off. What's going on down here? Rocking with me as always on this panel. Ladies first, Alicia, how are you? How are you doing this today, this weekend?
I'm good this weekend. How are you, Tony?
I am fine. I'm happy to have you here again. As always, rocking with my man 50 grand. Fill the issues, guys. What's good, brother?
Not much. Very happy to be here. Very excited to talk about this episode.
Now, what did y'all feel instantly about the episode? I mean, scale of 1 to 10 on this episode right here. Or did it meet your expectations? I mean, a lot of the Halloween episode, they put a large chunk of this episode in the trailers, right? There was a lot of stuff that happened in this episode that they put in the trailer. So did it live up to all your expectations?
I think so. It was, I don't know how to describe it other than it was very, very dark, but glittery at the same time. Like, it was a dark episode, but there was something still like morbidly fun to it.
I agree. This actually I guess I'm in this kind of cycle with the show, which I get in some shows that I start to like. This was my favorite episode after saying last week was my favorite episode. I feel like the 1-for-1 for what they were spoofing essentially was even more clear in this episode with the Malcolm in the Middle stuff. I think it was, and having watched a lot of that show, and I mean, I watched the Donna Reed show too, but being of the age I grew up in, some of the references with the kids talking to the camera, opening up the world a little bit. And I feel like it raised more questions than it answered, but then answered it and then upped the game at the end with the power on and then everything going on. I feel like they're effing with us though a little bit, essentially in the way that when you play poker and someone knows the tells and you know that they know the tells, they're putting off a lot of communism is just a red herring. They're putting out a lot of those kind of things. So I don't know what I'm taking and eating and growing and what is essentially just following false breadcrumbs. But either way, I'm enjoying the ride. So
They are definitely, and I tell people all the time, and I've watched a couple of these YouTubers videos, and I usually don't, but I did because people commented to me that, oh, this person said the same thing you said and tried to say that I said it. But when you take a look at the date, you can see that I published my videos like a full week before this. But besides that, so I've looked at a couple of people's stuff, and when I see their theories that they're saying about this thing, it's impossible for it to be, because it's so obvious that they're steering you in this direction, that if it is like this is the poorest attempt. Breadcrumbs, you done left the whole loaf there, right? These ain't crumbs no more. This is the whole loaf.
You're playing the shell game with us. You know, they're look over here while we're doing this over here. I think there's a lot of that going on. And then something is telling us the story, whether it be the theme songs, if we listen to exact lyrics of the theme songs that are explaining what's really going, something in there is what's going on. It's just I'm sure all of us will have our different takes on what we think it is. I tend to think the theme songs are telling us more than they actually are. I actually have it. I don't know if we're going to get flagged if I play the audio for it, but I do have the audio for the theme song ready to play later, possibly. We'll see. Or is it Agnes doing the double agent thing in this episode where I think she was just fucking with the Vision and being maybe even faking being turned off and on by him with the switch. I don't know. A lot of really cool stuff. I'm sorry. I'm excited. I'm excitable.
And I'm excited too. So obviously we start off with the Malcolm stuff and the Quicksilver, the crazy uncle, ploy and everything else that he's doing. And, and here's another thing. I see someone say, look, they called him a vampire. That means he's from hell. He's Mephisto. Listen, man. If y'all believe that, I'm not telling you not to. But come on, it's just so pretty obvious. How did you feel that this actor playing Quicksilver is doing, right? Do you think he fits in with everybody or what?
As far as Quicksilver himself, I think he's doing a phenomenal job, but I will give, was it Aaron Johnson Taylor? Is that how you say his name? Okay, I'll give him this much. He kind of blends with Elizabeth Olsen a little bit better. Like, I can believe that they're siblings. I mean, Age of Ultron, they did a couple things where I'm like, my brother and I are close and we don't touch each other like that, but cool. But I can believe that Elizabeth and Aaron are siblings, whereas, and I think it's just because I've seen Aaron as Quicksilver, her sibling, but it was a little more, took a more convincing myself to believe that Evan was her twin. However, as Quicksilver, he was perfect.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. He's a better Quicksilver, if it makes sense, but the Elizabeth Olsen and him had a little bit more brother-sister dynamic going on. But I think he did an amazing job in this episode, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, a little silly Easter eggs. Everyone's mentioning this. I also watched a couple of those videos. I couldn't help myself, Tony, with the Kick-Ass thing, where they both were in Kick-Ass, and there was Kick-Ass was said twice in this episode at different times, and they both were in that movie together. That's just so this show is so, as AK said in the chat, it's the biggest cock tease of a show. It's also meta as fuck, like where everything is coming. That could be actually making mention of crossing over the universe, or it could just be a tongue-in-cheek wink to the audience. Like the show has us in the palm of their hand to do whatever they want. But I agree with exactly what Alicia said. I think this guy's a better Quicksilver, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think they fit. I think he fits in well with them. I think he truly, the other guy who they got playing Quicksilver for the original Marvel guy, I didn't like him. I never liked him. I never liked him as Quicksilver. I never liked him as an actor. Not that he can't act. I just didn't like him in the role as Quicksilver. That's why when I seen this Quicksilver for the X-Men, I always thought that he was a better Quicksilver all around. I thought he played the character better.
Yeah. I've said this before. He's my favorite version of the Fast character we've ever seen on a screen. Better than any version of the Flash, better than any version of a Quicksilver character that we've had. I think him in Days of Future Past specifically, but he also brings it in this episode, and we'll get into that more as I assume.
Yeah, Ezra Miller's Flash discussed this one.
Horrible. He's the worst.
He's the worst. He can't even run correctly. That's the whole thing. He looks terrible running. That's the whole part of the character. Dude, and you look terrible running. So it just looks terrible. All right. So I'm trying to go through the episode in my head. So they do the whole thing. The crazy uncle gets in the nuggies, and then Vision comes downstairs, and we got the Vision in the classic. First, we get Scarlet Witch in the classic Scarlet Witch costume from the comic books. Did you like the headpiece? Do you think that she should somehow keep this headpiece going forward, or is this just good nostalgia?
I like it as nostalgia. I think that it looked good as novelty. I think that if they tried to incorporate it in a serious way, unless they did something a little more thin, then it would be a bit campy for my taste. But she looked great.
Yeah, she and Vision both looked great, and Quicksilver and the kids. I thought that was really awesome, that how everyone looked. There's also someone dressed like Weird Al in the mix there too, which I appreciated. So yeah, I liked all the costuming, particularly for this episode. And I do also want to point out that Agnes was wearing a witch costume when we saw her.
My gosh!
Listen, Tony. I know so much of what you're going to say. I'm not convinced she's not Agatha yet. You're going to start a fight, Phil. I'm not convinced she's not Agatha yet. In fact, I think that whether she's Agatha or she's some other entity, we can all agree there's something up with this chick. But I think that when Vision saw her car trying to leave Ellis Road, Street, whatever, I think she did that shit on purpose. Like, she planted herself there. She wasn't actually trying to leave. Like, she wanted Vision to see her. That's my opinion.
Listen, she could be. Most likely, at least looks like this is who she is. I mean, you can't say. I mean, if you're going to pick somebody who she's going to be, you're going to pick that this is who she's supposed to be, right? But it's so damn obvious right now that it's making me believe that there's something else going on because it's too much. It's just too much. You're gonna put her in the witch's costume. You know, you're gonna have her bending over with naughty on her butt. I didn't mind seeing that though. I didn't mind seeing that. But now she's she's the aunt and she's a part of the family. They got her in the opening credits and she's taking care of the kids, which the character does in the comic books. It takes care of the kids, right? So when you add all that up, it does look like that's the case, but it has to be something else. That's just too easy. It's
Okay,
just
but something you have to consider, Tony, is it's easy for nerds like us. I think a lot of who they're trying to reel in are casual viewers as well. So I think I think the nerds, like the hardcore nerds that are going to pick up on this, make up maybe 1/3 of the audience. Maybe half, but still, they'll get the casual viewers pretty good.
Yeah, I could agree with you that maybe it is, but I would think anyone would I mean, not, only comic books people are going to know who this character is in the comic book. If you never read the comic books, you would not know who this person is in the comic books. You would have no idea of what's going on in the comic books and everything else. All right, so we got them. We get the costumes, and then they need a costume, Quicksilver, and then they come back with the classic Quicksilver. And the hair costume and the green costume and the hair. Oh my God, the hair could double as horns. He's Mephisto. Oh.
He must be.
I'm not thinking there's anything nefarious going on with Pietro at all. However, he did say something when the kids run off, because in the comics, Billy and what's his face, Tommy, are fragments of Mephisto's soul. So they're literally demon spawn in a way. So when they're running off to go trick or treat, he's like, "Give him hell, demon spawn." And I was like,
hell too. It's gotta be But
no, I mean, he does say when they're in the little maze, he says something like, "Westview is charming as hell," and I'm like, "Oh, he said it." I don't know.
Man, you don't think they just have to be doing that just to steer people down the wrong path? I mean, it's too obvious. That's the whole problem with it to me.
Okay.
Like the people who feel this is Mephisto, and I'm going to talk about this real quick. I'm not saying that he's not. I know he's not. I'll bet y'all whatever. If y'all want to believe it, you can believe it. But
witness.
There's no reason he's going to be Mephisto. He's not Mephisto. I guarantee you he's not. And I'll tell you exactly the reason why. This is the number one reason why. They're not going to introduce the character who's enough to be the huge big bag like Thanos in the TV show. And they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. You're not going to put Thanos in the TV show. Period. He's that level of, Mephisto's that level of guy. If they're going to introduce him somewhere, it's going to be in the movie. That's where he's going to get his introduction to that, an end credit scene or something. He's going to get his thing.
Do you think whoever's responsible for this situation, if it's not Wanda herself, is a minion of whoever that villain is in Doctor Strange?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I basically is who's doing this, a minion of who ends up being the big bad in the Doctor Strange movie.
I'm not saying that it's Mephisto himself that's doing all this. I think that Mephisto is pulling strings, and I think whoever the big bad is in this particular show is doing the bidding of Mephisto, no different than, like, what's his name? Lee Pace from Guardians of the Galaxy, the Kree guy. He was working for Thanos in the long run. What's his name? The Destroyer. What was his name?
With Ronan the Destroyer.
Ronan the Destroyer. Thank you.
The goddamn dance-off battle. See, those things that piss me off. Things like that. Like, you can't have a dance-off for the galaxy, right? I understand they're trying to be funny, but some things you can't be funny with. Like I don't want to see goddamn dancing Ronan. Like, to me, I would keep it more serious to me. I understand why they go that route sometimes, but I don't. Me personally, I don't like it. I don't have to dance off for the goddamn universe. I need to fight, and that's it. They ain't gonna dance. But
it's like playing guitar for your soul.
Just a thrall for the big bad.
And I was going to say, if we all know who really pulls the strings, it's Tony. Tony, you're pulling the strings.
That's right.
Right, I couldn't help but say it. It got set up.
That's what it is.
No, but I mean, Thanos was set up multiple times before he actually appeared in person beyond just this like overshadowed face smiling after the mid credits. I mean, the first Avengers movie.
Was that when he first showed up? It was at the end of the first Avengers with the Tesseract.
Yeah, because Loki was the bad guy in that movie, but he was just a pawn.
Yeah, as Mara was saying. Yeah, as Mara was saying in the chat, Loki was working for Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you see him, and then he does the grin, he gives you the grin at the end, and then you know what's going. It's going to be something like that with Mephisto. It's not going to be Mephisto in WandaVision as Pietro, and he's not going to, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the second Exorcist movie, if you ever seen that one, or was that the original one? But at the end, you see the person, he turns around, looks at the camera, and goes, "I am Bazuzu." All right, you're not going to get that. It's going to be no Bazuzu in this goddamn show. You're not going to get Bazuzu. You're not going to get that. You'll get the Bazuzu in the movie, whether it's Multiverse of Madness, whatever it is. It's going to be one of these movies. It's not going to be in the goddamn TV. That's just my opinion. But all y'all who are on that Mephisto bandwagon, I am not here to dissuade you in any way. I want y'all to keep pumping it up and keep going that way. We'll see what happens.
And Tony, that's what's awesome about this show, because it could be, that's what's cool about the shell trick, or cool about it could be obvious in our face, or they could be playing, because I tend to agree with you. There's a lot of signs, even, and I know you have a theory with everything with Hayward, but I think even that for me is a little obvious about him being more than just a pissed off sword member that like has lost his mind and is dealing with some bullshit. But I don't know. It's hard to say, and that's what's awesome. That's one of the things that this show has managed to build to this point after 6 episodes, the ability that it could be anything. I hope we do, unlike some other shows that build stuff like this. I don't want it to be Twin Peaks where we don't really get answers and everything is out there. I do want to get the answers at some point and actually find out some of these things. I don't want them just to be loose threads, because they're doing a great job, but I hope they're able to hit the home run when they set the bases up here, because they are setting the bases great, and it's tough for a show in a show like this where people build theories and thoughts. It needs to meet or exceed your expectations. And what I like about the show too is it's always something I'm not quite thinking. And to your point, Tony, I do think they're overtly aware of this, that we're here doing this now, debating this stuff, and they're throwing us false messages, and it's fun. That's what's fun about this.
Can we establish, everyone on this panel agrees Big Bad in the show is not Mephisto himself. However, can we agree that he's orchestrating a lot of stuff probably?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Because I think we're arguing over something we don't actually disagree on.
Yeah, I think, but yes, Mephisto is going to be the big bad when it's all said and done. But because he's obviously the father of the kids, that's the way comic books go. I don't think they're going to change that. So we'll see. But obviously they could change it, because he should have been in Infinity Wars and he wasn't. But yes, I do think he's the big bad for Doctor Strange. Next, Alexander Wilson, thank you for the super chat, $5. He says Kevin Feige did say that WandaVision leads into Spider-Man 3, Doctor Strange 2, Captain Marvel 2. I feel this is a prelude to those movies. And indeed, they have, if you look at all those movies, every one of those movies, there's a touch on something else that's going on in those movies. Like the Captain Marvel 2 is Monica Rambeau becoming Photon, which we've seen in this episode.
Yep.
She's definitely Photon. We've seen her. She's you want to call it Photon, you want to call it Captain Marvel, whatever you want to.
I'm calling her Rambo.
Rambo is definitely, she's got her superpowers. We see in the body, you see the energy inside of her, and that's it. So that's the end of her. I just don't understand how we get the other girl, Darcy, right? She goes through. How come no one else got superpowers? But it must have been the blast that Wanda hit her with that pushed her out, plus going through that shield that did it. Because everyone else who went through the shield didn't get superpowers. The only difference is the blast. So it must be that blast that gave her that, and going through the shield gave her superpowers. The only way I could see it going. But she definitely has the powers right now, and I can't wait to see her. I think I like the actress playing her, so I can't wait to see her. And I think that's what's going to lead in, and this goddamn this shield director agent. That's what leads into Captain Marvel 2. Those two things right there. Wanda leading into Doctor Strange is the big bad in this is going to be in Doctor Strange. He's going to be both of them.
Yeah. No, and Tony, I did leave the voicemail line out there for some calls. We do have one voicemail. We can play them all at the end of the show, or we can play it now.
Oh, yeah. Please put the voicemail number there. People got voicemails. Please, put the number in the chat. If I had it, I would put it on the screen. Yeah, let's play a voicemail. Let's listen to it real quick.
All right.
Hey Phil, Jason here. Nice intro there with the voicemail. Really loving it, fellas. Just wondering, do you guys think that they're really laying down some solid groundwork that could have been maybe conveyed with some B-plots within the threads of the regular MCU cinematic universe feature films? And there's some possibilities, and it's a little bit advantageous for them to introduce new super villains or heroes through this medium. Thanks a lot, fellas.
And Alicia. But I think the question there is, would they introduce some supervillains through the TV series for the movies? And I think it's kind of what we're basically been saying. Yeah, I think that's what they're going to introduce them as a jumping ground, whether it be through Nightmare that leads us to Mephisto, or somebody else, or through Agnes's character, or Herb's character too. I think is there's something going on with him as well. So between one of those characters, I think is our jump off point to our big bad.
Or Dottie, right? Dottie too. Where's Dottie go? She just...
AK, I felt like we were being trolled as well, but it was a normal question. It was just a troll voice with a normal question.
It definitely was a troll voice. I don't. First I thought it was you, Phil.
Like I snuck away for a second to ask a question. Put out the info that I didn't.
I said, "Is this Phil changing his voice?" I was like,
well, everybody, here it is. It did sound like a voice I could do, but yeah, no, it wasn't me.
Well, at first, like, I don't know, my face gave me away when I first heard the voice. I was like, what the fuck? And then I'm like, no, what if he actually talks like that? Control your face, Alicia. But then after a while, I'm like, this dude, dude's having fun. He's having fun.
He was having fun. He had trouble too. He's like, oh, I have to keep doing this voice in the question. He almost dropped it for a second there.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. I think that the shows were genius for a couple reasons, but they are definitely hardcore canon. They're definitely good segues. Also, it's a phenomenal way to take your time telling a particular story within a Marvel arc. Because I think you have movies like Infinity War and Endgame, and even the first Avengers, Age of Ultron was out of all the 4 Avengers movies. But I mean, they're really, really well done. But my big complaint is they've got so many people on one screen, they can barely give attention to. There's only so much screen time you can go with each character. Like Bucky's one of my favorite characters, and I think he's in like 30 seconds of Endgame altogether, which is a travesty, but whatever. We'll wait till March. But I mean, the shows can flesh it out completely in a way that makes sense, and what's on top of it. Like, I just read Disney Plus is like, WandaVision is like the #1 streaming show right now, because they do the week-to-week thing. It's a smart move, but I do think the shows are just as canon as the
it has to be, because before this they had nothing on Disney Plus. I had it for a whole year, and I don't think I watched anything they had on it. So and I bought it just for these series. So it better be. I mean, honestly, it better be. All right, so they go out, they start doing a little trick-or-treating situation. Behold, all these kids come out. We haven't seen any kids. Vision brought up something about the kids. Vision, he sneaks off. He says, I'm going to go do some neighborhood watch situation. And he sneaks off, and then he gets away from us to do some patrolling. While that's going on, all of a sudden, Pietro's like, don't worry, I got you. I'll take care of him and everything else. Then the kids come out of nowhere, and the town is all flooded with kids. How did y'all feel about that?
Well, 1 second before you say, but Pedro did say he had the X gene. I mean, the XY gene. But to your point, though, that's an obvious. I have the XY gene, but he inflects, at least in my mind, in slow motion. I see him inflecting on the X. I have the XY gene. That's how I heard it. So, but I just wanted to stop on that quickly before we moved on to the next part.
I didn't even think about that. But if we can go back to that stairwell scene right before Vision dips out, It's very, very, very masked. It's very short, blink and you miss it, but there is a little bit of hinting that Wanda is still trying to control every aspect, and Vision kind of calls it out a little bit, and it's like he kind of realizes his best bet is to just kind of go with it. Like even right down to, well, it's the only thing that was in my closet, so, and then they stare off at each other and he's like, because you love Mexican wrestler. Anyway, so there were little hints here and there that she's still trying to control certain aspects, and he's just trying to roll with it for now.
Yeah,
you can't control him because he's an android, right? So everything here is basically built. She's only able to control like the humans' minds.
And they were both made by the same stone, so their powers cancel out each other to a certain extent. So they can't really. So her thing, and he said it in the last episode. You cannot control me the way you can control the other people. He's still sort of got a hard reset from the switch in the timeline. And as Alicia was saying, he's kind of struggling with it for a second. And that was an amazing acting job by him. And even like that subtle moment, him coming downstairs and having that look on his face, like he's feeling the pressure of her, caters to her, almost dares her when she's like, you're going off script. He's like, am I? And he just looks at her like, you want to start this again? And then he just leaves and goes out of there. And she believes him until she talks to Herb, who breaks the lie to her and tells her that he's actually not on, what's he say, Neighborhood Watch or something like that.
Yeah, and they got Secret Service earpieces and everything, this Neighborhood Watch. You know, I don't know how they afforded those to get those out there to do that. But also Herb also breaks, he does what Agnes does, right? He does what she does. So, do you need anything, Wanda? You need me to do something? About like he's basically he's snapping out of it for a second, like admitting to her that like he knows that she's controlling this whole thing. And hey, do you want me to help you out? What do you need from me and stuff? So
it's kind of like the mailman last episode when she was like, the kids are walking along and they're like, where's our dog? And the mailman is like, I'm sure if anyone can find it, it's your mom, or whatever the mailman says. It's basically like he knows Wanda's controlling everything. Like, I feel like it's at a point that they are aware in these snippets of moments, and that's when they're in excruciating pain. And then it's like she kind of, I don't know. I'm still not completely convinced she's controlling it as much as.
But she's controlling. So
yes, but I mean,
but she's being manipulated inside of the bubble. But she's controlling this aspect of it. Like what we're seeing inside there is all her. Everything under the dome is her. But there's someone in the dome with her that's manipulating her in the dome. But everything that you see in the dome that's happening, like at the end when you see it, she's pushing the dome out, and then everything is turned into a circus. She's doing that shit. Mm-hmm. I mean, she because when they say, when Wiccan and Speed, when Wiccan says, when he gets his powers finally, the dad's in trouble, she pauses everybody. She just shuts everyone right down. She's like, pause, and everyone stops. So
right after basically bitch slapping Pietro into the hay.
Yeah, when he's like, he can't die twice, and she's just like, fuck you, it's enough of you. And you're right about that, Tony. And essentially, that was my surprise of this episode, because I had been so much of thinking that, does she have this kind of power? But I think seeing her talk to Pietro and about going back, I can't believe you can do this. This is a big step up from nightmares or just throwing red magic at people. But I think at the point at the end of the episode when Wiccan goes to her dad's in trouble and she does the expanse thing, whether she's being puppeteered by somebody else, I saw for the first time, at least if I believe what's in front of me, that she's the one that did create all of this. Seeing the people on the outside of the town that are moving in slow motion, or in some cases catatonic, go to her point, makes what she said in the last episode more haunting, when she's like, you think I can control everybody and send them to the dentist? No, she tried that at first and decided she had to keep half the town on pause until she needed them for other purposes. Same with the kids. At least that's when she's talking to Pietro and he says, where you're hiding the kids. And I tend to think that the kids were all sleeping and she woke them all up because she didn't want to terrorize them or something to that effect.
Well, what I kind of think is what's going on is I do think it was her that broke into Sword to get Vision's body. Like, I think we can all agree we would if we were her and that were our significant other. I know I would. And I think that she kind of created this space to kind of reanimate him. So when I say control, I mean, it's she's the driving force behind all of this, but control is such a meticulous thing. So I don't think she has complete control. She just knows to make this bubble in which Vision comes back to life. And I don't think she's completely controlling everything, because even when Pietro is like, how are you doing all of this? She's like, I don't know. All I remember is just being alone, just this sense of loss, this emptiness, this hopelessness. And I think that she had this psychotic break and somebody's feeding off of that. So now that I've seen that, I do think that was her that left the Hex to go confront Sword. And someone pointed out in a tweet these like side-by-side gifs with Michael Fassbender and Elizabeth Olsen both doing that thing with their hands with the guns at the same time, exact same motion. I love those little details. But I mean, I don't think she's in control, but I do think she's the one doing all of this, yes. But I think someone else is really manipulating her.
I don't think it's a manipulation to the point where they want her to do this. I think that's what leads into what's going on. And I'll do a short form video on this, and I'll drop that tomorrow for you. But that's what like we said, it leads into two shows, right? It leads to Doctor Strange. I already explained how it leads into Captain Marvel 2. So now the other two shows are Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. So what's going on is that she's doing this, and the person that's manipulating her doesn't understand how she's doing it. He's trying to get her to tell him how to do it so he could do it for himself. And that, number one, is break into the multiverse and have multiverse and cross over from the multiverse, because that's what she's doing. She's pulling. So people say that this Pietro is not the Pietro from the X-Men. He is brought over from that multiverse. That's how it leads into Spider-Man. That's what Spider-Man's about. It's about all these other Spider-Men coming from all these other multiverses. That's how it leads into that. This Pietro is from that multiverse. He is from the X-Men. He doesn't remember it. He doesn't remember anything, just like no one else remembers anything when they come in there but what she wants them to remember. They all can't remember. If Vision touches him in the forehead, then maybe he would remember it. That's
going to be the interesting part. If it gets to a point where Vision gets to touch him, if he snaps into it and is suddenly the other one, because I almost agree exactly with what you said, Tony. I think it is the body of the X-Men universe, Quicksilver, brought over, and then Wanda is implanting or projecting what she remembers from Pedro's life into his mind. That's what, or somehow it's Pedro's last thoughts before he died, because he does seem to remember some of the things that Pedro remembers. But I do think the body, if this makes sense, the vessel itself is X-Men Quicksilver, but the minds thing that's controlling him inside the Hex is a amalgamation of what somebody thinks Pietro is, or some parts of Wanda's memory of Pietro. And if Vision did touch him, I feel like he would revert to X-Men, to the X-Men 1.
Yeah, and where does he get this touching power from, Vision? Well, where did he get that ability to do that to people? Why is he the only one who
Think about what he's powered by. He's powered by the Mind Stone. I don't think it's a huge stretch that he can just like boop, 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 beep, and then that's that.
Then he can just touch people on the temple.
He has the tools.
Yeah. I mean,
you put a picture in the temple and you're good to go all of a sudden. And then he puts you, see, this is the whole thing. This is the same thing like when we talked about Agnes a little bit. Agnes. We talked about her a little bit. Like when she's trying to it seems like she's trying to escape. That's what they're trying to do. And then she's basically asleep, and then he touches her, and then she's like, "Oh, you're an Avenger. You're here to save us." And he's like, "Avenger? Yeah, I am, but I can't remember everything about him being an Avenger." I mean, that's what happened in the comic book where he got this taken apart. and they put back together again. That was the whole thing. When they put him back together again, like a Mr. Potato Head doll, when they did that to him, he lost all of his memories. He had no memory of Scarlet Witch. He had no memory. He didn't care about her or anything else like that anymore. So it seems to be that's what they're drawing from when they're doing this memory situation, because he is a Weekend at Bernie situation going on here with Vision. He's not. I mean, number one, he's a goddamn robot. He can't be. He's never alive. He's never been alive. He's been activated. So
no strings to hold me.
Yeah.
Well, that's not completely true, because if you remember in Infinity War, the whole reason that they tried to remove the Mind Stone from Vision was because they felt like there was enough that was Vision to make Vision. So I feel like in some ways he's his own, because he was made out of like organic tissue from that one doctor in Hong Kong, I believe. Korea, the Korean doctor. And then he was made from I don't know. The whole thing's confusing. But when they went to remove the stone, it's because he's his own entity in a way. They just didn't get to finish the process because they got attacked.
What Siri said, like, they didn't want to kill him. They knew taking the stone would be kill him. And Siri, she goes, why don't you just reprogram him? He's a robot. And just transfer his memories off and then put it on something else, right? And they like, they didn't think of that obvious situation because they're treating him like he's a human being. And she's looking at him like, this is not my friend. He's a robot. It's reprogrammed. Put it in something to put him in a different body. That's what you got to do. Here's the deal. What she was trying to do during the Infinity War, but she couldn't get it done in time. And that's why Wanda went out there to go fight him off. But he's a rogue. He's a goddamn robot.
Here's the deal. If he can fall in love and dick someone down, then I'm pretty sure he's a living entity.
I don't know. I've seen they have mechanical things that I've seen on certain sites that do roundabout motions and stuff, and they're not alive. All right, so I would say it's possible, and I've seen real dolls. All right, who have sucking motions.
Real doll.
That's not alive.
I'm gonna go through sci-fi in this one. If Data is considered sentient,
super chat, there's $25. Thank you for the super.
Thank you for it. If Data is considered sentient and Johnny 5 is considered sentient, then Vision is too. If we're going by TV logic of all of those things, if Johnny 5 is alive and he got his little birth certificate and Short Circuit 2, yeah, I'm quoting Short Circuit 2, he became a sentient being. And to your point, Alicia, Data dicked down a bunch of people on Star Trek The Next Generation. And that's part of how he proved in a court case in season 2 that he was actually sentient and actually a living being. He proved by having sex with Tasha Yar and having some sort of emotional connection with her that he did identify.
I'm not going to go into the Star Trek debate at this time, but I will say real quick before we go back to the Vision is that he is not, because when he got taken prisoner by the female Borg, when she put the flesh on his skin.
Yeah. Yeah, you're talking.
That was the first goddamn time he was able to feel. When she blew on his skin, that was the first time he was able to feel anything. So
was it good for you?
Oh, thank you. I was thinking this. Right, and someone in the chat, Anira Mosley, because I was thinking about how Vision is also part of Thor in a way, Thor's magic, because it was Thor's magic that came along and said "Hacha" with the hammer, and then Vision came out naked, and then of course it pans over to Wanda being like, "Oh hey," Anyway, doesn't matter. But he's also part elemental magic. She's a
freak. All right, she's not all right. Rwanda's crazy woman. She's a Looney Tune. I mean, that's the bottom line right now. She's a Looney Tune. Why she is such a psychopath, I don't know. The trauma that she's had in her life, to me, is not enough to drive someone to taking the whole town prisoner. That part of it, she's done. She may say, I don't remember how this happened, but this dome is her domes. Does anyone believe that she is not in control of this dome, that there's someone else who manipulated this whole dome?
I think that got disclosed, and that's kind of what I was saying before. I think in this episode, I believe now at this point, the first piece of concrete information is, even if, because I agree with what Alicia's saying, and I think we're all kind of saying the same thing here too, that some other entity is either influencing her or pointing her in the direction, but it is her, at least in my mind, I think it's her power that is controlling what's going on inside that hex. Okay,
I was just thinking it, but I see Alicia Kingston going off in the chat too. Like, I am pretty sure what Wanda's been through is enough for anybody to snap,
No,
especially when you're a walking weapon of mass destruction.
I don't.
Plus, we still don't know how much people's minds are affected by the blip.
Know that, but no. Listen, people lose siblings all the time. They don't take whole towns.
She
hostage.
lost her whole family and then the love of her life.
People's families been slaughtered, and they don't take whole towns captive
because they don't have the power.
No, they just don't do it. I mean, the people have power to do a lot of things. They don't do it. That's not an excuse. Trauma is not an excuse.
We're not talking about whether it's an excuse.
Right.
We're talking about whether it's enough to break someone. I don't think we're really talking about her.
Right. I'm saying she's not in the corner going beep, 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 beep. That's broken to me, right? I don't see her doing that right now. What she's doing is a little bit different than that. She's a Fruit Loop. All right, she needs to be in a straitjacket. That's the bottom line, because she's fruity. She is in the comic book too. She's just a crazy woman. There's something going on there.
Yeah,
she is crazy. I mean, and that's another thing that this show could be. And I'm stealing this theory from somebody else. It also could be a setup for there could be nobody else, and this could be a setup for Wanda being the villain in Doctor Strange. Like, I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but it could be. This whole thing could be a origin story for Wanda turning heel, essentially. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I don't think that's it, but they could be. It could be.
I mean, if she goes villain, one thing I do want to see again is the glitchy framing from Age of Ultron when she does something creepy and she comes in and out all glitchy. I'd love to see that with her as a villain.
I just don't see her Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness doing this sitcom shit, and then all of a sudden we're in Happy Days, and Doctor Strange is in Happy Days, and he's got a Fonzie jacket on, and then he chases us through Happy Days to Mork and Mindy. And then after Mork and Mindy, you see Doctor Strange doing Nanu in the Mork suit, and then all of a sudden you see him leaving from that to Different Strokes, and now she's Kimberly Drummond, and Doctor Strange is the I don't see that breaking down that way. I think she's there for Doctor Strange to help him. She's gonna fuck things up.
I agree with you. I guess I'm just introducing the possibility that there's enough breadcrumbs where it could be going in that direction. And I know I don't want to dwell on this, but I think our troll was Justin, just for the record.
Justin is kind of doing some weird shit in the chat.
Justin seems to be in troll mode. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but I'm pretty sure Justin was our voicemailer.
Justin's like talking about things he would do to Vision's body and stuff. He's in troll mode.
There's kids watching. There's kids watching.
But I mean, narratively, I think it would just really beautifully and tragically bring things full circle if Wanda is the reason that Wanda's no longer doing the hex. Like, Wanda needs to decide she's going to let go, in my mind, narratively.
Unless the son has the same powers as her, maybe he could do it. We got a super chat from Miss so awesome. $9.99. Thank you so much. Listen, if I could take over a town, I might order a town. I can't.
I think that's a typo. I might take over a town. Remember who her daddy is.
All right. Yes. All right. So we do remember who her daddy is, but she don't know who her daddy is, right? So
Quicksilver does.
No, he don't know either. So even if you do it with Quicksilver, he never confirms. I don't think in those that is his dad. I remember he says that he remembers a guy coming over that was able to manipulate metal objects, but I don't think he ever came across and said that was Magneto. I don't think he ever said that. So I'm not sure if that's the case, if that's the way it goes. Tony, will you do a review of Judas and the Black Messiah? I did it. It's up right now. If you want to look for Judas and the Black Messiah video, it's posted on my page right now. So I already did it.
Yeah, it got posted about an hour ago or something like that, right before we started here today.
So definitely go check that out. It's a beautiful movie, and watch that movie if you haven't watched it. It's definitely a great movie to watch, especially for Black History Month.
Well, Mara and AK in the chat say they did confirm in the last movies, or that Quicksilver does know that Fassbender Magneto is his father.
Does he know that? All right. So I didn't know that he knew.
I wasn't sure either.
He said that he was a guy who came over the house that was able to control, but I don't know if he did. So, all right. So if he doesn't, he knows. So is that the big guy you think that they're going to show at the end? Is it Michael Fassbender? Does he come out of the multiverse too?
That's who I think it is.
I want to see Anna McKellen though. I think it's Magneto.
Yeah,
I think it's Magneto.
it would be difficult. I want to see Ian McKellen too, and I like his portrayal of Magneto better. I think Fassbender does a great job, but it may, and I'm stealing this from somebody else that said this. It just makes more sense for it to be Fassbender. Fassbender with that version of Quicksilver had more interaction with him, and Fassbender's younger, and they can use him for longer. And with COVID and everything, Ian McKellen probably couldn't get access to do it. But I also do think next week we're going to see Reed Richards, though. Or I could be completely wrong about that, but I do think we know that whoever Rambo is meeting is a guy, not a
astrophysicist.
An astrophysicist. So those are we got a little bit more information about that in this episode as well.
Yeah, I know people were thinking that it could be the Ironheart girl that from she's got her own show and she would be able to do it. I would love it to be Reed Richards, or at least a name. I don't know if they show him, but I know they name drop him. They drop that name. They'd say Richards, or something like that. Oh, Richards bought this, or they'll say something like that. Or Ben, they could say Ben Grimm. Wasn't Ben Grimm a mechanic? He's a pilot. So I don't know if he could build stuff. I think they could do that, and I think Fassbender makes more sense because he's young enough to continue on, right? Because you're gonna need someone who can continue this on. So that's what I think, and I think the person that's really manipulating this whole situation is trying to get Wanda to explain exactly how she's able to tap into these multiverses, because they want to pull people from the multiverse over here too, and that's their plan, to get more enemies over here and stuff. I think that's what it's going to be. I think that's what this whole thing is about. And everything, and I'll drop a video tomorrow about it, a short form video just discussing exactly that and how that's definitely going to work and how it's going to play out for the next couple episodes. I think I got it in my head exactly how it's going to happen. I see this one coming a mile away. Back to the episode though, we see Vision getting pulled apart from the as soon as he comes out, he's like his body's getting torn apart. How'd you feel about that situation?
Honestly, I thought it was just trying to pull his parts back in. Like, I thought he'd just get sucked back, but he straight up went limp and keeled over. And then she ended up expanding the hexagon a little more. Like, she had to have expanded it maybe like half a mile at least, maybe a mile, because they were gunning it down the highway for a hot minute. But I'm interested to see if he remembers that incident and how he reacts to it.
Yeah, because in the clip you do say one of the clips she goes, "This is our home," and he said, "Well, then we should defend it." Right? Like he's on board with her. Let's fight the people coming in here, and let's hold it down in here. How did you feel about that, Phil?
I do think the same thing. I thought that was done really well, and again, it's because we've seen so much of it done poorly. When you see someone who knows in CG or in makeup and stuff, who knows how to put a great performance just with their facial expression, I was feeling his pain, like seeing him push through the kids, which are tough to cast kids. I unfortunately, even though I shouldn't, rag on a lot of child actors sometimes when they're bad and they take me out of a scene. All great to them, but the kids that they cast as these two twins, we were talking how they were sort of the narrators of this episode, and in that moment when he gets his powers, stops the Speedy brother, runs to Wanda, I thought that was done exceptionally well. And I think what was happening to Vision was being outside of her, because because he is a creation of what's inside there. When he was out, he was being ripped apart and destroyed by the real world. Because I also think it's interesting, she didn't react by going out to get him. The only way that she could solve the problem in the best way is to expand this so he couldn't even begin to go out. And I also think it's an interesting question. He is retaining knowledge from memory to memory, from place to place, but we don't know how much of it. We haven't seen that quite yet, have we? And someone correct me if I'm wrong. We see that he has familiarities about it, like I feel like something's wrong. Nothing's in my closet, but he's not being very specific about his memories. I believe he'll probably remember that, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
I think his best bet, in all honesty, is to just go with it, because I think the more he bucks, the more she's gonna buck.
Yeah.
So his best bet, even if he's aware of what's going on, just don't even speak on being disgruntled, and she's not gonna try to change anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like he's a hostage too. It's like everybody else. This is like he wants to be there with her, and that's sad that a robot man doesn't even want to be there with you. That means you're
I
pretty.
don't know if it's that he doesn't want to be with her. He just doesn't want to go along for her bullshit.
Yeah, and we've also heard earlier in the season about how he made an active decision about if he died, he didn't want to be brought back. So when he does find that big reveal, like you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, where Agnes was screaming at him, and I think that's important that she wanted to convey that information to him,
because she's Agatha.
Because whether she's Agatha or not, we'll figure that out in upcoming weeks. It's going to be fun to watch you guys watch that come out. But my question to you guys about that scene: do you think that Agatha, he was really unlocking anything in Agatha, or she already unlocked in it all, and she was playing into the moment? Because I tend to think that was all an act of hers. Because even right when he snaps her back into it, the look she gets on her face is like, okay, back to normal. It's almost overdone a little bit. I don't know. I was reading her all kinds of fake. I was like, Fugazi, fake, through every moment of that scene with her. I was just curious what you guys thought about her in that moment.
I think she planted herself there. I don't know if she was honestly trying to drive her car out of the hex as much as whether she's just a civilian wanting Vision's help, and that was her way of flagging him down, knowing that her stalled car would get his attention, or if she's some other ethereal entity or something. She was trying to flag him down. She wasn't just there by happenstance.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. She wasn't there by happenstance. She was there specifically to relay to him the information that she relayed to him. She wanted to let him know that you're dead.
You're dead. You're dead.
You're not alive. You're dead. You understand that? Because he can't remember that. So
did she know that Wanda's reaction would be? And again, these are questions. I'm not asking. This is rhetorically. Did she know that Wanda's reaction would be to expand it, and that was her goal to keep expanding this thing?
I think it is.
You think it is, Tony?
Yep.
Yeah.
She wants to expand the whole fucker. She's not just trying to go for a couple of miles here.
I love the show.
She took a lot more hostages after that, including Darcy. I'm just gonna rabbit trail a little bit and say I'm really interested to see the way that Darcy changes, because Darcy in general is a very cynical.
She's got to be around, though, right? She's got to be in the circus. It's all a circus, so she's got to be some part. Maybe the flying trapeze person. She's got to be some. I think they'll make her a clown.
And no offense to her, her acting in this isn't much different than her acting in Two Broke Girls. So it's not, and that's the kind of time period that we're going to get into. So it's not that much of a change in her. If she's suddenly, I bet she's just going to be herself in a sitcom, because she's basically playing the same kind of character she played on like the wisecracky sort of. So, but I could see her being a clown somewhere where they don't have her talk at all, so we can't see the change in her. Because I think if she talks, it's hard for that actress. Because I think this is the best I've ever seen her. I like her better in this than in Thor or Two Broke Girls. I think this is where her character is working the best so far, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And this is why the shows are genius, because you get to spend more time fleshing that out. But I do think that Wanda, I think she just wants to keep Vision alive, but she doesn't want to just, okay, we're here and you're alive in this little bubble. Like she does want to remove some parts of his conscience or conscious. Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Okay, it's been a day. But I mean, I think she does want to keep him subdued to a certain extent. I think if she knew, like, she knows she's holding the town hostage in the sense that they just can't leave, but I don't think she knows they're in excruciating pain. Yeah. Otherwise, I think otherwise, I think she would let them go. But I do think it's something she's kind of like, she's thinking she wants this done, but she doesn't necessarily know exactly the mechanics of it, if that makes sense. But her powers came from the Mind Stone. If she can completely incinerate Vision, she can bring him back to life. It's just, I don't think she knows how to keep him alive outside of the hex.
He's not alive. If he leaves the bubble, he goes back to what he is. It's like everything else will go back to what it was. not everything. So certain things have come through the hex and stayed, which he changed them into, right? So certain things have changed, you know what I mean? But I think that if he goes through the hex, he's going to die because he's already dead. He's already deactivated. Oh, whatever.
What do you think about the kids? Do you think the kids can come out of the hex eventually?
Yeah, I think they have to, because that's obviously that they're setting up the Young Avengers, right? That's what this is leading to. Next week there probably won't be kids; they'll probably be teenagers by the time next week rolls around. Because when they come with the Young Avengers, you have them. You have the Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. She's got her own show right there. You have the Ironheart girl. So you got to have Kang the Conqueror as
She-Hulk could be a part of that as well, probably.
Mm-hmm. She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
And they're also, it's rumored, but I think it's true. They're going to bring in Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones for She-Hulk, which is perfect if they're doing, if they can bring in Evan Peters, they can bring in the actors that play the Defenders, in my mind.
Yeah, well, as long as you don't bring in Loris Tyrell.
I was going to say they might ditch Iron Fist.
His name will not be mentioned here.
They might ditch him. I don't know, but I do think that...
or just recast him as Stephen Amell. I'll be okay with that. I think
it could be perfect because, especially if you're moving forward with all this Captain Marvel stuff, Jessica Jones and Captain Marvel are like best friends.
Yeah.
And Jessica Jones, eventually she learns how to fly. So other than like photon blasts, she's pretty on, not completely, but she's pretty on par with Carol Danvers. Like that would be a fun character to have that's related to so many of the...
She's got to get her powers taken away. If you're going to bring in Rogue, you got to have Rogue steal her powers so Rogue can get her powers, because Rogue don't have no powers until she takes Captain Marvel's powers.
Right.
So she's got to steal her ability to fight, and she's got to steal her super strength.
Does that mean they're going to bring in Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique?
No,
I feel like Mystique was such a...
she'll ever play that role again. She hated it. Right?
Yeah, she was so sick of it by the last. I'm sure Rebecca Romaine would do it in a second.
The makeup on. I'd rather have Rebecca Romaine.
She would do this. It's not like she's working much other than that. Jennifer Lawrence can get work.
Here's the thing. Mystique is a shapeshifter. You could bring in a completely different actress.
That's what's weird. Yeah, that's what's weird that they cast Jennifer Lawrence in that part, because
she was the hot chick at the time. That's why they put her in. She was hot at the time.
She was blue the whole time. And if you want to have your main big actress, you don't want to make her blue.
Rebecca Romaine Stamos did a fantastic job, I think. I'll give her. I think so too. Thank you for the super chat. Alexander says, "What was worse, Iron Fist or the Inhumans?" Iron Fist.
Iron Fist.
Iron Fist. Iron Fist. Hands down.
I didn't watch Inhumans, but I remember seeing the promo.
They only did one episode. They put one episode out and they never put out another one because it was so bad. Iron Fist, you got to see how bad it was episode after episode after episode. It never got any better. They gave him a chance and it just kept getting. He did a jump kick off the wall. And I'm telling you, he probably was 1 foot off the wall when he put his foot. I did that when I was in second grade.
But he's the master of all martial arts. He's the greatest warrior of all time.
It's terrible.
He's terrible. Okay, but Iron Fist was worse than, and that's my second mention of them. I don't think they're good shows, but Iron Fist was worse than the CW shows, and they're horrible.
Yes, it was.
I will legitimately say Iron Fist is worse than Arrow and Flash.
I mean, the only thing CW had going for them was Supernatural.
Yeah.
And now even then they really beat that horse.
Yeah, Iron Fist was worse.
They really beat that horse.
Worse than Hercules, worse than any show. It was.
I would rather watch The Young Adventures of Hercules, which was the daytime afternoon.
Iron Fist was the only standalone Defenders show that I didn't watch. I just didn't have interest. But I remember when they did the Defenders, it was kind of like, yay, Jessica, yay, Luke, yay, Matt Murdock, and it's like, ooh, Danny Rand. Oh, he's on.
Someone kill Loris Tyrell. Where's the
His name is Finn Jones.
All right, so back to, I think we're almost ready to wrap this. I think we talked a lot. There's any other points that we haven't discussed?
I think we hit pretty much every point of the episode except for talking anything about Haywood and about his shadiness in this episode.
I had some. It's just one particular theme that I did want to talk about, because other than the whole dead thing that Agatha was doing, a big theme of the episode was death in itself, even right down to that commercial, which went real dark real quick. Yeah, yo magic can't sustain you. I feel like death was such a hit you over the head theme in this episode. And I know, Tony, you're always saying like, well, you don't think the big bad is Mephisto. We agreed that it's somebody that he's orchestrating, someone that's doing it on his behest. I know you believe it to be Nightmare.
Yes.
Are you starting to see itty bitty hints that are dropped that it's Nightmare? Like,
Yeah,
that's
I'm 100% so I know it's Nightmare. I don't even. It's not even questionable.
I'm
That it's not
saying
Nightmare.
make me a believer. I'm not saying no. I'm saying like
It's there. It's already there. There's the fact that the hints aren't as many is what's letting you know that it's going through. They're pushing you to Mephisto. They're trying to make you think Mephisto the whole time. But you hear little things like what you do with the kids. I bet you got them all in there sleeping. Because everyone is in there sleeping. When you see these people in there, this is the only way Vision is back right now is if this is some type of dream, reality that's going on in this situation. This is her fantasy, her dream. That's all this is a dream. A nightmare for other people, but the whole thing is just a dream. And this is all 100% Nightmare who's working for Mephisto to get those kids. They have to have the kids, but they're trying to break the dimensions. They want to bring other people in from other multiverses. I don't know why they want to do that, but they want to do it. And that's why if you look at it real quick, they're always questioning her. How did you do this? How are you doing this? And they always keep asking, trying to grill her that she's doing this. But they won't. She doesn't know. She can't. Every time she's about to answer something always
Something
comes.
cuts off.
They're trying to get that out of her. So
well, Mephisto's whole shtick is that he wants souls. Like that's his big shtick, at least in the comics. I mean, he's not in the shows yet. But another thing to keep in mind too is you do have the Loki show coming out in May. And from what I understand, Loki has quite a few run-ins with Mephisto, and I think he does Nightmare as well, which is something that I just now thought about.
He does,
but I mean,
and Spider-Man has a tremendous.
Has the whole thing with him.
So what you're saying is the big hints about Mephisto are kind of slight red herrings, like have you looking over here while you're not looking at the Nightmare stuff.
Yeah.
But you think they are throwing some Nightmare crumbs here and there?
Yeah, they're giving you some Nightmare stuff. I'll put it in the next video.
and mixed into those false breadcrumbs, they did mention the name Nightmare twice in this episode. One when Haywood said something, this nightmare will be over with, and then one other character said this is a nightmare, or something to that effect. And someone mentioned it in the chat talking about Haywood. When Kat Denning's character, what's I forget her name right now, but Darcy, discovering and hacking into his computers, sees that he is tracking the Vision alone, which is an interesting part of Haywood's plan that we don't know. And she was also found another thing deeper that right at the end of the episode, before she blipped it into the hex, she found out some other interesting piece of information about Haywood, about something she saw on the computer screen. Do either of you guys have any clues or thoughts what that might be?
You know what? Darcy figured it out, and eventually when she comes out of it, even if for like 30 seconds or so, she's going to be able to relay it to Vision or Wanda.
Well, if she's in there, somehow Vision can touch her. She can get to a computer. She can access it.
But how does that's the thing though, like Vision, unless he goes around just touching random people to figure out what he gets, Vision doesn't know who Darcy is. Vision's never had any
around touching random people.
And this is what it is too, which is a little crazy, but if he realizes like, hey, she's a new person, how did she get here? He may do it, you know what I mean?
But there are a lot of new people now.
It's supposed to be like over 3,000 people in there. How all of a sudden this is a new person that just popped in? He's just going to realize it. I don't know. But it would be so. We got a super chat here from Alexander again. Says, "Will WandaVision have any impact on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier?" Well, I don't think so, because that was supposed to come out first. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That was supposed to be out before WandaVision. WandaVision is supposed to be the second show. But I do think Hayward is in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You can look at my last video that I did about that, dude. And thank you again for the super chat. Look at my last video I just put out, not the one I just put out, the one right before that. I go into all that Hayward stuff and all that stuff, and meeting up his name and all that good stuff and all that and everything else. And check that video out and all that. But thank you for the super chat. We definitely go. I tell you, it's nice. It's when it's all said and done, it's Nightmare. I guarantee it. And then Nightmare is the Loki of this, and then you eventually get to Mephisto for the movie.
Yeah,
for
Doctor Strange. Yeah.
You get that then.
Because I think. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I just gonna say I agree.
Do you guys know when WandaVision was originally slated to release? Because I remember Falcon Winter Soldier was like November of 2020.
Yeah, it was supposed to be after this. It was Falcon and Winter Soldier, then WandaVision, and then Loki was what was the way it was supposed to all drop.
So you got yourself another. Oh yeah, super. You're on it. Never mind.
Another super chat from Jen S. It's all a dream, or they all sleepwalking through this delusional dreamscape pocket bubble. But does it changes the DNA of the people, like Hayward's laptop says?
I think one thing that's going to be clear that Monica Kat Denning, I keep calling her Kat Denning. She said, Darcy said that it changed her DNA because she went through it multiple times. So I think unless some of the natural regular humans are going through it multiple times, not the extraordinary spirit beings like Agnes or Herb's character, we were the two that I think are special in there, and Vision, of course, and the kids. And Pietro is different as well. But everyone else, I think if they went through multiple times, their DNA may be written, but I don't think it happens the first time, if that makes sense.
I mean, if they really want to get their way around not giving everybody who is in the Hex superpowers, unless that's something that they want to go with, somebody's marred in some way. Whoever was already in the Hex when she created it, maybe it's not the same, because when the Hex was already established, Monica Rambeau voluntarily pushed her way through, and then she was thrown back out of it before the Hex was disassembled, if you will. So that might have something to do with it, but I've seen quite a few people in the chat kind of debate with each other about whether or not she might have already had some powers.
Yeah, she's not a mutant in the comic book, so I don't know if they'll just transfer her into a mutant, because in the comic book she's not a mutant, right? So, well,
I mean, there could have been something. I mean, if they revealed everything about Monica Rambeau's past right here, then they wouldn't be doing a good job, I think, But I mean, like, that does make me wonder if she might have gotten her powers elsewhere beforehand, because she did seem to, every time Darcy presents to her, or that medic presented to her, like, oh, there's something weird with your blood work, she's like, yeah, like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're just trying. They don't want you to know that she's got. They want you to. They're hinting that she has powers, but they don't want to go all into it, because then she'll have to say, "Oh, really? What's wrong with my blood work?" And then they'll have to bring it up. So she's just like, "Oh, let's just move on to something else real quick," so they don't have to expand on that topic.
I do think her powers will manifest before the end of the season, though. We will see her in some sort of use of superpowers, but I don't think it will be explored. To Tony's point, and I don't think it'll be explored till a movie or maybe in Captain Marvel too. I think it will be
Captain Marvel too. Is when they'll all so they'll show that she has something, and then Captain Marvel 2, it'll break open for her. I think that's when you
Jenna, me as well. I'm so spoiled with binge watching things, when things like this or The Boys was like this as well, where they come out every week. I much prefer the Cobra Kai all being dumped at once, but I do like the fact that this show, we wouldn't be able to come out here every week and debate things. It does hurt a little bit, but it makes it feel more like old school television watching, where you're like waiting for week to week. But I am a glutton, and if I can get all the episodes, I want to consume them all at once. But it wouldn't be as fun. This show in particular, I don't think would be quite as fun if they binge release this. I think there's something to be said about shows that create mysteries to debate, and all the talking head assholes like me that want to talk about this stuff.
Look, there's a reason Disney literally owns over half of entertainment right now. It's because they know their shit. They know how to keep people coming. They know how to. I mean, as much as I'm spoiled with the binging, I'm glad they're going back to the format of once a week.
Yeah,
it'll be something to look forward to more.
Yeah, I love binging, but you can't have a successful show for the amount of time that you want it to be successful unless you're able to stretch it out. And what you're looking to do when you have shows is you're trying to have event shows, right? Game of Thrones, it was like people got together, they watched it, it came on at this time, they got their popcorn. Every week, it was Game of Thrones Sunday. you're looking for that show to be that. You know what I mean? So the only way to get that is to have once a week and draw anticipation for it. There's no other way to do it. So you have to keep doing it in this format. This is the day they stake their claim, but there are other days that people could claim, because again, House of the Dragon guarantee will be on Sunday.
Sundays, yeah.
Maybe they'll put something up against it. Maybe Disney will say, you know what, we'll try to battle that and put something against it. But everything's going to have a situation. That's why Lovecraft Country became so successful, because it gave people something to watch every Sunday.
Yeah, and that's the Soprano time period, that 10 o'clock Sunday. And I do think someone will put up against Game of Thrones, but I don't think it's going to be Disney. I think that's when you're going to see. I would not be effing surprised. I don't know why I can't say fuck now. I wouldn't be fucking surprised if Amazon puts the Lord of the Rings series out the same time that the Game of Thrones series and puts it right up against each other.
That would be a suicidal move.
I don't know who win that with battle. It would be hard. It would be a hard battle. It will depend. I mean, obviously, I want Game of Thrones, but that would be a hard battle. I mean, Marvel could. They put something. You have to go up against House of the Dragon. We don't know how it's going to be and everything else, but to go up against that, if we're anticipating it to being what it's supposed to be, it has to be something that people already established. Like that could work. Because the Harry Potter would work if they did
Mandalorian season 3.
Mandalorian.
If they did a Harry Potter, I don't know how successfully it would do these days, because people are definitely of a mind, especially as J.K. Rowling outs herself as a terrible fucking person and a TERF. People don't really want to put money toward J.K. anymore.
People love that. They still, I'm a Slytherin, I'm a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. I love the Harry Potter books, but the bottom line is I already bought them. They're already mine. If I reread them, it's no more money in JK's pocket. I find it disappointing that she turned out the way that she did, but I
have such confliction. I agree, but I still want to play the video game when it comes out. I still want the Harry Potter video game when it comes out.
People love what they love. James Elliott, Super Chat, 5 beans. Thank you so much. Loki, Nightmare, Mephisto are up to some Fear Club stuff right now. No doubt about it. And that's why Doctor Strange is going to need people to help him. It's not going to be one villain he's up against in the multiverse of man. He needs Scarlet Witch because there's going to be multiple people, multiple villains he's going to have to fight. That's why he's going to need help from her. Do you
think Spider-Man will be in that movie as well? You think?
Spider-Man, the magical dimension, does it work? I mean, Nightmare always messes with Spider-Man, and that's why but Madam Web is always there to help him out. You know what I mean? But he always is messing with Spider-Man. Nightmare is always on Spider-Man for some reason. They always got problems, them two. So definitely could be some Spider-Man situation going there. We could see it, you know what I mean? But it is what it is. It is what it is. I think we'll be off topic, but go ahead.
Speaking of off topic, I wanted to interject because I see some people in the chat and I'm getting excited. I want y'all to know that I as well am a Ravenclaw.
I'm a Ravenclaw as well.
Oh, yay. Tony, you got to take the test.
I'm not taking shit.
You'd be Gryffindor. I think Tony would be Gryffindor.
He's a Hufflepuff. Are you fucking kidding me?
He's a Gryffindor.
He's a fucking Hufflepuff.
He's a
Hufflepuff. No, I'm sticking with Hufflepuff.
I don't know what any of those.
Anyway.
Ain't nothing puffy about
okay, my whole thing about Loki being in, I think Loki is just trying to do his own thing at this point. Trying to align. He's advantageous. He's going to stick to whoever helps him survive the longest. I think given how things have gone for him, he's not going to want to try to really affiliate himself with a big bad anytime soon. I would think.
This one didn't get choked out and killed by Thanos, so he doesn't know anything about that right now. But he's Loki. He's bringing the more time travel aspect into this, right? So that's what he's doing, bouncing throughout time, which is going to bring in Kang the Conqueror. So that's going to more lead off into the new Ant-Man and Wasp movie that has Kang the Conqueror in it. That's going to set that up, and also eventually the Young Avengers when that happens, But that's where I think it's going to go down there with him. So his spinoff will be mostly more into that. Wanda's setting up these things. That spinoff's going to set up that, and then Hawkeye and Hawkeye and his chick. That's going to be the real jump off for the Young Avengers when it's all said and done.
I don't know. I just think Loki is kind of, with everything he's been, don't get me wrong, I don't think he suddenly like grew sentimental and wants to do the right thing as much, but I don't think he's really, because I mean, you have Mephisto and Nightmare want to fuck shit up just because they're dastardly, and Loki wants the most advantageous thing for Loki. So I guess
he's going to be anti-hero-ish in that series.
Right. I think Loki's whole shtick, because I remember in Endgame watching him just disappear with with the Tesseract and just being like, oh, we're not going to address this for the rest of the movie, huh? And then they came up with the show or whatever. I think he's going to touch down a lot on time paradox and time travel and, the more than like dealing with, I think he'll come across Mephisto and Nightmare, but I don't think he'll try to really align himself with them as much as he'll just be another thorn in their side. Like he's a thorn in everyone's side.
We got a super chat from Mo Castillo says, could the vampire comment be a Blade Easter egg? That's really, well, I hope so.
I hope so too. Yeah, that's great. I didn't even think about that. Thank you.
I'm going to say I love Blade.
Me too.
So much, like the original Blade. It doesn't get any better than Wesley Snipes running around with a katana saying "motherfucker" like every other.
To your point, like Wesley Snipes plays that better than anybody, but they challenge me here. They're putting me in a difficult position because they got probably one of the 2 or 3 best working actors around right now to play Blade. Mashana Ali I believe that's his name. And because I think, especially if anyone hasn't seen the most recent season 3 of True Detective, to watch one of like he's great in everything, but he did such an amazing performance in that. So to think about him in this part as Blade, I think he can bring a lot. But there's some part of me that's like Wesley Snipes is still young enough to play this part. I wish he's acting again. He's in more movies. I wish they had got Wesley.
I mean, it's a good time to bring in somebody else. My whole thing is just like processing it all. Because I always knew Blade was Marvel, but it's just one of those like Legion, the show Legion was Marvel, but I have a hard time processing it into even X-Men universe.
Because it was one of the first ones that it was very much bridging Superman, Batman 89 with X-Men, Spider-Man stuff. It's almost forgotten about in a sense, but it was the first that started this. Well, that and Blank Man, of course. But
things are getting kinky in the chat.
Thank you very much, Top Shelf Fandom, for the super chat. Truly appreciate it. What up to my man Bridge 4 in there, and what up to my man Sir Ryan Vine? I see him up in there, and everyone up here. I haven't given a shout out to everyone up here. I'm not just calling them out. Everybody, OTDA, Mara, AK, Kiki, all y'all people. Thanks y'all for joining us on this. This is something normal we don't do. We don't talk Marvel a lot, but people watch it. We will, but we're gonna finish this season no matter what. That's the bottom line, because it just keeps getting better. And that it started slow for me, but it has gotten better. You know what I mean? So yeah, what up to Mara and everyone, everybody out there. You know what I mean?
Thank you for sharing the links, OTDA. That very much appreciate that.
Yeah, and so I'll say when we're dealing with Blade real quick, it was a great movie. It fell off after a little bit, you know what I mean? But it was definitely doing. We got another super chat. We got to answer this super chat here. $9.99 from Jenna S. Thank you so much. So, do we think Wanda will turn this around and redeem or be the big bad like Mephisto Nightmare? Could she be the main villain for Strange 2 or go full Mad Queen? What do you think?
I was talking about that a little bit earlier, and I don't think that's the case, but I do think they've set enough up that if that was the choice, it would be an interesting, unique, fun choice to see. I don't think that's the case, though.
I think that, like I said, if the hex fades away, it'll be her choice. She's the only one that can really release this. So it has to be her letting go, which I think is redemption in itself. I think she'll be kind of down on herself for a while, but whatever Doctor Strange does with her, that'll be her redemption.
Yeah, it'll be a redemption with Doctor Strange. She's not big enough. You got to look at the big. So you could figure out, I could figure out, anyone can figure out. You think about who the next big bads for the next phases are going to be. This phase will be Mephisto, will be the bag for this one. And then
Magneto will be one eventually.
And the next one's Galactus.
Do you think Galactus is next, or do you think they bring X-Men stuff first and then Galactus?
Galactus is first. Galactus will be the next phase. Big Boss will be Fantastic Four. Everyone, it'll be Galactus. And then after Galactus, they're going to do Secret Wars. They're right in the Secret Wars, right after that. They'll do, because once you got Galactus established, then you can establish the Beyonder, and it'll be the Secret Wars 1. They'll do the battle plan in Secret Wars.
With like Storm and Spider-Man and
where Spider-Man originally got the Venom costume, where he first got it. That's where it came from, the Secret Wars planet, the black suit. It'll be that one with the Hulk lifted the whole mountain on his back so they could travel underneath him and all that stuff. With Doctor Doom, you gotta have Doctor Doom, because he's, obviously, if spoilers for Secret Wars, but Doctor Doom is, he becomes very powerful. I won't say what happened, but he becomes very powerful.
Doctor Doom, Red Skull comes back in that as well.
Yeah, you gotta have all that stuff. So
isn't Baron Zemo kind of in that same wheelhouse a little bit? And I know Zemo is in Falcon Winter Soldier. So maybe Falcon Winter Soldier isn't completely its own thing. Well, not as compared to WandaVision, but I mean, sorry.
No,
rabbit trailing so hard.
That's what's fun. And again, that's what's exceptionally fun about this series and where the MCU is at right now. Because for whatever it's worth, the original lead up to Infinity Wars and Endgame was pretty downhill. And I don't mean downhill as in going bad. I mean, it was like the story was set out. You knew generally what was happening from point to point. And then at least myself, after Endgame, you're like, where do you really go from here? And I think this being the first real thing, I know Spider-Man Far Away Home was afterwards, but this being the real first thing of the next stage of where they're going, I think was an interesting choice to kind of set up more mystery-based stuff. And I'm invested in a way that I wasn't sure if I would be again after that 10 movies leading up to Endgame. And that's a credit to how every other company that tries to do something like this in the last 20 years has failed miserably. And there's something that Marvel's doing right about it. And they continue to do it.
I was just discussing this with a coworker. I was just discussing this with a coworker yesterday. It's always like so fun to find out they're a fucking nerd just like you are. But I mean, he was saying, why is it DC can't make their movies work like Marvel does? And I think it's just because Marvel knows the elements of the comics that are really campy and really corny and aren't going to translate as well. And they don't take themselves too, like, Marvel doesn't take itself too serious. Like, even the dialogue, it's really dry, it's really sarcastic, it's really witty. Even when there's like this really like epic moment, usually there's this pause of music and they're kind of like, oh, it's funny. Whereas I don't think DC knows when not to take themselves too seriously. Like, I don't really delve into DC too much, but the movies I have seen, it's like, it's like pre-workout and you don't actually work out. It's just like too much, like almost like testosterone coursing through you. Like it's just too serious.
It's too Zack Schneider.
It
really comes down to it is because this is where I would, and I don't want to get into the whole thing about this, like DC can be like that too. If you want to see the best versions of it, watch Batman the 90s animated series or Justice League, especially the Justice League animated series from that age, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. I think it all comes down to Kevin Feige knows what the fuck he's doing, and DC counted initially on Zack Schneider, who I don't care, we're getting a Schneider cut. Like, no, I don't want to see anyone's Schneider cut.
Well, Zack Snyder worked for 300 because like the premise itself is pretty serious. But I mean, like, how are you going to take something like Robin, who's running around wearing a goddamn leotard, and just try to like not have some fun with it and not take yourself too seriously. Right. Like, I think they're going too much for the super serious element, and it doesn't work as well when you're like pulling from these 1950s, 1960s out of date comics. Like, you have to have this moment of consciousness where it's corny, and Marvel does that. I think
that DC, we'll get to super chat in 1 second, Jenna. DC has the catalog to do it, and a lot of their storylines is better than Marvel. A lot of Kirby stuff went over there, all the dark side and everything. That was all supposed to be for Marvel. And
Frank Miller stuff later on.
And he was over there. So I think they had what they do, and if you look at all the DC animated movies, they're all great. Every one of them, they knock those out of the park. What it comes down to is they have one guy in Marvel, Kevin Feige, who oversees everything. They need that for DC. They have all different people who take their own take on this, Just like right now, you got the new Batman coming out. That's its own separate universe. You got this Joker over here. That's its own separate universe.
The Flash with a different person playing Batman.
That's this. You got to have one person who's mapping all this stuff out and have everyone like, this is the way this is supposed to look, this is the way this is supposed to feel, this is the way this is supposed to feel, and go through it like that. That's the problem, that they don't have it. They have all these other people, and everyone's got their own different take, and everyone wants to do their own universe. That's the number one problem. The second problem that they did was biggest issue why it failed. They did it too fast. Marvel built up to it. They did a bunch of Iron Man movies.
For
They
years.
did Thor movies, and they did Captain America movies. They did all of them, and then did the Avengers. These people did this. They did Superman movie, and then went right into all of them together.
We talked. Don't forget that Green Lantern. But you're right. And essentially, the Batman versus Superman should have been way down the line. Justice League. We should have had
You should have did a Batman by himself.
Aquaman, Flash.
Aquaman by himself movie. Wonder Woman by herself movie. Then you just like you have Batman showing up at the end of the post-credit scenes. You build it that way, and then you put them all together, and then that's when you get that. You don't just jump right into it, and that's what they did. It was just way too fast. Jenna S. Super Chat thing, it says they just wanted to cut off Marvel's pie. They wanted to cut of Marvel's pie without putting in the time and universe.
Exactly. They wanted to quickly rush it to it. And instead of doing that, instead of being clever and smart about the storylines, and I will also go for another thing, the Superman animated series episode where Batman shows up and we have a Batman, or it's called World's Finest, that we have Batman versus Superman. They fight a little bit, but it's all about their different philosophies about investigating and stuff. Batman is a little bit more hard around the edges. Superman's like punch first, ask questions later, and they have a battle. It's Batman versus Superman essentially in that way, not just let's see who can beat each other up with kryptonite and stuff. And I feel like, again, that's another thing. The DC universe is such a blunt instrument to what Marvel can do precisely in a sense, and have that subtlety, have that humor like Alicia was talking about. And I think if you set up with just a little bit more subtlety, that could have done it too. Not only did they shoot their wad when early, it wasn't even a good one, you know. Like it was like it sucked. They didn't even like they felt bad about it.
Wad. That's like after you already came 5 times, and that last one,
the last one should have been Justice League.
Yeah, exactly. James L. Super Chat. Just kill Robin again. Brilliant.
Yes.
Well, you got to kill him the way he gets killed. If you're
Which one?
You got to kill him like he gets raped and then beat to death. That's what's supposed.
You got to Jason Todd his ass. I mean,
yeah, you got to do him. You got to do him like that.
Well, going back to Marvel, I remember back when Iron Man first came out, I was in college. I was babysitting for this couple, and to this day, I'm still Facebook friends with the husband, and he loves Marvel, and he was so excited. He came home, and I remember him telling me like, "Oh, Iron Man was so great. You got to go watch it." Like, and he pulled up on Google this whole timeline. He's like, "Eventually, they're going to do this. They're going to do this." I remember back in 2008, he was talking about Ant-Man. Like, there's going to be an Ant-Man movie, you know. And it's like Marvel had time. They had the patience. They had this whole plan, and they stuck to it, and it worked. It's so intricate. DC it's like.
They had flops in between. Thor was a flop. It wasn't a good movie.
But they just like brush the dust off and they keep going. When DC has a flop, they're like, we're gonna redo it. And it's so like, I remember I went to a performing arts high school, and I remember taking my first theater class, and one of the first things that the theater director taught us is you never get on stage and at any point apologize for your act. You just keep going. And I feel like DC kind of does that when they remake movies. Like, oh, you guys didn't like it with Joss Whedon? Let's do Jack Snyder cut. And it's like, no, Justice League sucked because Justice League sucked. It's not going to not suck because you tweaked a couple things. In fact, it's going to like ruin it for a couple people that you're redoing it. Just like brush the dust off and keep going with what you're doing. Exactly. You know,
I agree. All right, we got to end this 1 hour 30 minutes.
I just want to end it on Kiki's point. DC is the dude that nuts quick. Marvel is the marathon dick.
All right, there you go. And that's true. I'm sure Kiki definitely said that.
He did. That's a Kiki comment. I had to get that in before we finish.
All right. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Phil, for joining us. We'll be back for you next week. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you, all the super chats. Maybe we're back tonight. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll talk to Phil about that so we can get back out here and we can talk about all that stuff Kiki wants to talk about in the After Dark tonight. All right. If you like the way I do this, please thumbs up this, please spread this across the realm, and please subscribe. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace and stay sexy.